Have you ever had one of those days where you sit down to focus, you're ready to go, but then your mind pops up and it's like 37 different tabs open? In those moments, you feel exhausted, and yet you have 37 tabs open, so you can't seem to rest. And you're feeling super busy. You're like, I have all of these different things going on, but at the same time, you don't feel like anything is actually moving forward. And no matter how much you try to plan your way out of it, everything just feels like too much. If that is you, take a breath and know that you are not alone in this. There are many people struggling with it, and I have struggled with it before too. And it's normal to feel out of sync because a lot of times we have our hands in so many different pots and we're trying to do all these different things. But then at the end of the day, we just get too busy, too overwhelmed, and we just lose sight of what we're working on. So today, we are going to focus on rebuilding your foundation, and we are going to be doing it in a gentle way, in an intentional way, and we are going to do it in a way that will help you not burn out over and over again. So I am Rachael Britton. I'm a clinical psychologist and a clarity and strategy coach. And my mission is to help entrepreneurs, therapists, and coaches like you break through those barriers holding you back from financial time or financial freedom, time freedom, all of those different things that you're wanting. And in order to be successful, I want you to know it's not just about having structure in your day, it's actually about creating a mindset and a strategy that really aligns with your values. And that's where I come in. I help turn clarity into action because that's usually what we want to do is be taking action, but we have to be clear on what we want first. And this will help so that your design offers, your systems, your schedules, they actually start to align with your purpose and your values and your process. So let's be real. True freedom, it's not just about more time. It's about knowing exactly where your energy creates the most impact for you, for your loved ones, and for your clients. So that's why today we are going to be focusing on the first video in my Clarity Framework series. And over the next few weeks, we are going to walk through the 3 layers that help you move from overwhelm back into balance. And those are foundation, heart, and your mind. And in each layer, we are going to design it to help you find clarity that actually lasts and is sustainable. Because we don't want to have to be doing this over and over again. So today, we are going to start with your foundation because clarity can't grow without a stability underneath it. So I have worked with many high-achieving, multi-passionate entrepreneurs and many individuals just that have their hands in so many different paths. And I realize that a lot of times people just kind of have this belief, like, if I can just organize it better, I'm going to feel okay. And so their goal and drive is just to organize, 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 organize. But what's really happening underneath is that they're trying to build focus on top of exhaustion. And in all reality, it's incredibly hard to create clarity when you're on this shaky ground of just trying to organize all these different things and make sure that everything can fit. And this is because your nervous system, it's overstretched. There's no amount of productivity tools that can fix a nervous system that is already overstretched. And so instead, our body goes into this survival mode. And as a result, it doesn't feel safe enough to focus. So we have all of these different things going on in our world, and our brain just gets overloaded. Our system gets overloaded, and it shuts down, and it can't focus on all those different tasks. And that's why your first job isn't to do more. It's actually to rebuild safety in your system, and it's to slow down enough so that your nervous system can catch up. And what you build in your schedule actually aligns with your nervous system. So here's the thing. Burnout, it's not a personal failure. It's actually a signal. It's your body, your system. It's your system setting off this alarm. And it's saying, hey, I can't hold on to all this weight. I can't do all of these things, not because I'm not amazing or a superhero, but it's just, it's a lot. And our system is there to really protect us. So when we ignore that signal, when we get stuck in that loop of survival and just trying to get things done, it actually creates more it creates more noise, it creates more pressure on us. It makes it harder to put in effort because we're feeling so burnt out. But when we honor that signal, when we actually hear it for what it is, that it's a warning, it's saying like, hey, I know you have a lot going on. And if you continue this pace, we're going to shut down and burn out. Then we can actually shift because we have to know that signal first. And we want to come up and create a plan to help be proactive so that that signal's not going off all the time. Really, we want to stop pushing for control, and we really want to start focusing more on stability in our day-to-day life. That doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen or, we're going to have to adjust and adapt. But if we can have this more stable foundation, it's easier to navigate when things do come up. So let's talk about what rebuilding your foundation actually looks like. So when thinking about your system, there are 3 layers of stability that I want you to think about. And the first one is physical grounding. So your body. Your body is this container for clarity. And when you are underslept, when you are undernourished, when you are constantly tense or stressed out, your clarity, it goes offline. And so taking care of your body often feels like the last thing on our plate. But would you ever drive a car with no gap? I mean, it's not possible. And as humans, self-care is about supporting our container. It's about supporting our body so that it functions at its max capacity. Because we want to stay online. We want our brain to stay online. So we need to fuel it and we need to rest it properly. Now, at the beginning, this can feel overwhelming, and it probably will be because it's something new. And again, your alarm system's going to go off and be like, wait, we're adding another thing. We're doing something different. And that's why we want to start small. Because if we try to go for the gusto and change everything in our world, we're just going to feel really overwhelmed adding it to what we already have. So instead, just start small. Focus on a grounding exercise or technique where the body can just take a deep breath. Like maybe it's before you open your laptop. It's rewiring your system by taking a couple of deep breaths, or even just saying like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm powerful. I'm strong, and breathing in, breathing out, and then opening your laptop. Maybe it's something like pulling out a book at night instead of being on your phone an hour before you go to bed so that it helps with your sleep. Maybe it's scheduling that lunch break and actually taking it. Yes, actually taking the lunch break, because that is an important thing. A lot of times we will let go of things for ourselves in order to do things for other people or for work. But the reality, again, is if we don't fuel our tank, we are going to be less productive and we're going to have less clarity on what we need to get done. The second thing is emotional grounding. So again, we're building this structure, this foundation for ourselves, and it's focusing on setting boundaries. And we can do this by setting boundaries with others, setting boundaries with ourselves, having self-compassion and permission to pause in our life, because that is really important. So with emotional grounding, just remember that our emotions, they're hardwired to respond faster than our logic and our reasoning. So just based on our biology, our emotions will react, and then it takes about 10 seconds for our logic and reasoning to catch up. So we need to give ourselves a moment to pause before we respond. And that moment to process and think through those those thoughts first, like all of those different thoughts singing through our head. We do some breathing as we're organizing and navigating how we want to respond. That moment to process, it actually allows the brain to reconnect, come back online, and we're able to access our emotions in a more effective way. And so just think about, like, when you are structuring, when you are creating a system, we have to really make sure that we are taking the time or the energy or the space to be aligned and to be able to make healthy choices for ourselves. And so the third area of grounding is mental grounding. And you're going to see these all kind of overlap with each other. But mental grounding is really simplifying your expectations. So when you're thinking about your schedule, when you're thinking about your structure in your day, simplify your expectations and understand that every failure is actually your first attempt in learning. So, just like a child that gets up and falls many times when they're learning to walk, we are going to do the same within our journey as entrepreneurs, therapists, coaches. And we want to be clear on our goals, like whether it's looking at your schedule, what is your daily schedule, or what are your goals for your business. But we also want to be flexible and give ourselves grace so that we can navigate the process of building and growing, because you're going to have ups and downs, and we need to account for that. I would say a big part of scheduling and over scheduling ourselves is that we set ourselves for these really high expectations of I have to do everything. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through this series, but part of it is that when we have high expectations for ourselves, we can overbook ourselves. And so it's not that we can't have expectations, absolutely have goals and ambitions. Just make sure you're realistic in what you're trying to do in a day or in a month so that you're not overwhelming your system and then burning out. So we want to be clear on our goals, but we also want to be flexible. And when you are unclear, if what you want to ask, so if you're unclear with what's going on or what you need to be focusing on, you can ask yourself this simple question: what's actually essential right now? Sometimes when you have those 37 different tabs going on, one of the best things you can do is just write out those 37 tabs of what you need to do and have it in front of you and just ask yourself, what's actually important right now? What needs to get done in the here and now? And this can provide more clarity. And again, in order to step into that, you have to take a step back. You have to pause. You have to ground yourself in the moment so that you can create space for that clarity. Now, when you tend to these three different layers, the physical, the emotional, and the mental, your system, it actually starts to exhale. It's like, oh, I can breathe again. And you begin to feel steadier, not because life gets easier, but because you stopped fighting yourself. You're learning how to navigate those ebbs and flows. And that's the beginning of clarity. It's not about fixing everything. It's actually about remembering that stability is something that you can rebuild. And it's about being flexible and honoring the fact that you need to slow down sometimes. Now, if this video resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. You can drop a comment below, or you can share one thing that you're going to do this week to strengthen your foundation. And if you want to keep building on this work, just make sure you subscribe and join me for next week for that next part of the Clarity Framework series. We are going to move to the heart work. Today we did the foundation work, and we're going to move to the heart where we shift from fixing ourselves to trusting ourselves again. Because when your foundation feels safe, your heart finally has the room to open and to trust the process. So I hope to see you next time.